r/AskReddit. When did you realize that you're dating an idiot? She didn't understand that you actually have to pay what you spent on credit cards. Like the credit amount she had was supposed to be her monthly limit that just resets each month. She didn't want to watch the original Avatar movie, Blue People, until her uncle told her that it was based on a true story. I asked her if she meant that it was a futuristic version of Pocahontas. But no, she thought that it was somehow based on a true story. Then asked if I was calling her uncle a liar. Follow-up questions, like asking if she really thought we waged war against an alien society, went equally poorly. We were 18 years old, FYI. She worked for a specialty decorated cookie shop at the mall. Like where you get those dinner plate-sized cookies with "Get well soon," or whatever written in frosting. She texted me a picture from work, proudly showing me a cookie she had decorated for a customer. She was legitimately excited to show me her creation. I had not previously seen any of her masterpieces prior to this. Not only did the artwork look like a 3-year-old's finger painting, but it said "Congratulations," which aside from the obviously bad spelling, she had clearly not even planned out the spacing in her head first, so it said "Conrado" across the whole cookie, and then, in tiny letters up the side, Latins. She thought it came out pretty well. She was about 30 at the time. I'll be honest, I broke things off shortly afterwards because of that cookie. I once dated a girl who legitimately thought we lived inside the Earth. We were talking about SpaceX back when they were just starting to get more public attention. I mentioned something about how it was cool we'll be alive to potentially see humanity reach for the stars. Her response was something along the lines of, "Yeah, but how do they get to space?" Confused, I said. "With the rockets. Like in the video." She replied with something like, "Yeah, but don't we have to get outside of the Earth first?" Dumbfounded, I asked for further clarification. She goes on to say, in a tone that suggests I am the idiot here, "We live inside the Earth, so how the do we get out so we can reach space?" I then inform her, "We live on the outside of the Earth. That's why you see open sky and stars, and the sun, and not more Earth above you." She then laughs and states, "If we lived on the outside of the Earth, wouldn't we just fall off?" Still, as if I'm the idiot. My jaw dropped. I responded with a simple, "Gravity? The atmosphere?" To which she says, "Oh yeah, that. Haha. Whatever, how was I supposed to know?" I asked if this was a joke. It wasn't a joke. She thought we lived in the Earth up until that moment. Where exactly in the Earth? I don't know. I'm afraid to know. I was speechless. She told me to never tell anyone. But we broke up years ago. I think it was for the best. Ask your partners whether they think we live on the inside or outside of the Earth and reply to this to let me know. I'm curious. I've been bearing this weight alone for close to 10 years. I'd love to know if there are other inner Earth dwellers unknowingly roaming the surface. An ex thought that commercials were recorded live, and the people on TV were employed to do them over and over again. The cops regularly put a speed camera on a corner near his house. They'd been doing it a couple of times a month for as long as he lived there, and he got caught by it many times. He was crying to me, literally, about how unfair the latest fine was and he had no money to pay it. I was fed up and told him to just slow down around that corner. I could tell from the look on his face he hadn't even considered that, and he got angry with me for not being sensitive enough. My ex wanted to start a business making supplies for baby showers. Her business plan was to sell everything below cost to increase sales. After I had explained numerous times that you cannot profit from a business that will inevitably lose money, her reply was that I was the idiot because if she sold them cheap it would drum up more business, and she would sell more that way. I gave my girlfriend a gift, a box with something in it, and after she opened it and saw what it was, I told her to check it again, because it's gone. I don't know why I said that. I think I was joking to confuse her or be silly or something. But without opening the box, the gift was still in there. She started screaming and ran to the other side of the room, believing that I had just performed dark magic or something. She later told me that she believed I was a witch or a demon when I told her that I made it disappear. I once asked my ex to start boiling the potatoes for dinner about 20 minutes before I got home so that they would be close to ready for me to mash up as the side for dinner. I got home right as he put them in the water. He had to call his dad to ask how to boil potatoes. He also, a month later, argued with my dad on the best way to replace a '98 Honda Civic alternator. My dad was a master certified Honda technician in the late '90s/early 2000s, specializing in cars and minivans. My dad very much knew what he was talking about. Where I'm from, there is a volcanic plug on the ocean. We just call it the Rock. I went on a few dates with a gorgeous hippie guy who told me a story about how it traveled the sea in search of somewhere to settle, and when it landed in that spot it knew it's where it meant to be. After he finished, I told him it was actually a volcanic plug. To which he replied, "Oh, that's what you believe?" "No man, that's what it is." He was gorgeous, but we didn't see each other again after that. Briefly dated a stupidly beautiful Thai guy. Very chill, loving, sincere Buddhist. It's been years and I'm not super clear on what he meant, but he was going on saying something about generating good karma by doing good deeds. So that's cool. I approve. Then he tells me he's gone to the Asian market and bought a cooler full of live fish and released them into a large local lake here in North Carolina. Species of non-native fish and frogs, potentially carrying pathogens. I actually cried out when he told me. He was baffled that I should be upset and basically said that I was unkind and didn't know what I was talking about, that fish are fish and it was a good thing. He said he's done it several times before. I tried to explain about invasive species, bacteria, viruses, food chains, etc., but he never could grasp it. I still wonder if he introduced something terrible. Stupidly beautiful and stupidly stupid. She would end almost every sentence with, "You know what I mean?" Not as a question, but as a description for something missing. There were sentences like, "He's not an asshole, but he's a, you know what I mean. Can you get me the thing that, you know what I mean? Yes, I get it, but I don't get the, you know what I mean." And so on. No. I didn't know what she meant, as most of the time there was hardly any context. Maybe she didn't either. Not me. I remember I went on a double date with a friend of mine in college, and her boyfriend had a scar. I asked how he got it. He said, "A few years back, I was using a hacksaw to saw off the wheels off of some roller blades, so I'd have boots to kick people with and lost control of the saw and cut myself." And I repeated, "Boots to kick people with?" And it didn't faze her at all. Not too long after she was pregnant, she gave birth to a son, whose name is his first name spelled backwards. This was over 16 years ago. They're married, have a few more kids, and she posts conspiracy theories and smells conspiracy in everything. She worked in a lawyer's office and didn't know what legal and illegal meant. Wondered how cows didn't fall in the river when drinking. Thought I was as tall as the door and couldn't figure out how I got through without ducking. She was laying down and didn't understand perspective. Called me in a panic thinking a helicopter was going to fly in her window. Police helicopter in the distance. I was putting things in the fridge, grouping things like meats, drinks, yogurts so they are all together and not a random mess. She noticed how I did it, laughed at me and reorganized everything so there were a few items on the top shelf against the walls, more items in the middle shelf against the walls and some on the bottom in the middle. When I asked why, she told me it's so the light can hit all of the items, because that's what makes it cold. When I showed her the switch the door hits when it's closed, and the light went out, she looked at me like a dog being shown a card trick. In college, I walked into a 7-Eleven with my ex. She wanted some sour candy, but said she couldn't buy Sour Patch Kids because they were only for kids. I looked back at her, did a double take and was baffled. She was dead serious. I busted out laughing in tears, to the point where I couldn't even respond to explain. She eventually figured out there wasn't adult versions of Sour Patch Kids. Not my ex, she was dating a friend of mine, but I witnessed the following. We were walking along and she saw a random stick on the ground, then she asked her boyfriend, Where do sticks come from? Her boyfriend looked embarrassed. I gave him the. Really? Look. She continued asking him that for the next few minutes. He pretended not to hear her, because if he heard her he'd have to recognize that his girlfriend was as dumb as paint. We gave him grief about that for years.